What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new Psych Reacts video. Today we are covering the Chris Watts trial. Now, in this video here, under Channel 9 News, we have some of the most important parts of this trial, including messages from family and also the ruling. Now, as you know, we've been following this case for quite some time, and I just want to end it off with a reaction to his trial, and then we'll be going into a little bit more detail of some of the stuff that I've wanted to mention before, and then that'll be this case. Now, if you have anything else that you want me to react to within this case, like a certain clip from anything revolving around this case, be sure to drop it down in the comments below with a link and let me know your thoughts. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started into this video.
Your Honor, there are no words to adequately describe the unimaginable tragedy that brings us before this court today. By my comments, I'm not even going to try to express the horror, the pain, or the suffering that the defendant has caused to these families, to this community, and to all who were a part of this investigation. However, I do want to spend a few minutes sharing with the court the details of the crime, as so far you've only had an opportunity to review the affidavit and a few facts here and there that have been offered to the court in the motions and pleadings that have been filed. The questions that have screamed out to anyone who will listen since August 13th of 2018 are why and how. Why did this have to happen? How could a seemingly normal husband and father annihilate his entire family? For what? These are the questions that only one individual in this courtroom or on this planet knows the answers to. I fully expect we will not receive the answers to these questions today, nor will we at any point in the future. I don't expect that he will ever tell the truth about what truly happened or why. Even if he did, there is no rational way that any human being could find those answers acceptable responses to such horrific questions.
All right, I want to stop him right there. Now, forgive me, I don't remember who this guy is. It's been a minute since I've seen the Netflix film, which tells you who everybody is and all that stuff, and there's no, However, he mentions that nobody will ever truly know why Chris Watts decided to murder his wife and kids that day. And I wholeheartedly believe that no one will ever know the truth. Honestly, I don't even think Chris knows the truth. Some speculations that I have is, obviously, Shanann was the dominant role in the marriage. She was the one to put her foot down and tell you how it is, and she ruled the house. Now, you can see that by Chris's personality, and even in past interviews, he mentioned that he would be the one to try to simmer down the arguments so that it never reached a level of hate, arguing, screaming and yelling, because that was not how he was. That's not what he liked to go through. Now, obviously, Shanann is the dominant one. Now, this is a theory. It's possible that Chris just one day, when they were talking in bed about getting a divorce and he wanted to separate, Shanann is a fighter. It was mentioned in the Netflix film that showed a note she wrote to Chris saying, "I still love you. I will continue to fight for this marriage." Alright, so I have pulled up the letter from the Netflix film that Shanann wrote to her husband. Now, as you can see in this letter, she says a lot of, "I miss doing this with you. I miss watching you play with the kids. I miss this. I miss that. I miss everything." Look at all that. She says, "I don't want to lose you ever." This is the most important part of the letter. "I can't and won't lose you without fighting for us. I will always fight for our marriage and you." When we look at Chris's personality and Shanann's personality, Shanann obviously has a stronger personality. Chris could have seen this as, "I'm stuck." And although it doesn't justify what he did, he could have full-heartedly believed that he was stuck in this marriage even if he tried to get a divorce. Because everybody's main question is, why didn't he just get a divorce? And the question will not fully be answered by Chris himself. He probably doesn't even know why he didn't just go for the divorce. But one of my theories is that Shanann was a fighter. She was the dominant role in the marriage, and he felt stuck. He felt trapped. He could have felt belittled even, because you know how men are. They're like, I'm the dominant person in the marriage, even if they aren't. So he could have felt belittled at his male role in this marriage, and that caused him to lash out at Shanann. She was willing to do anything for the marriage. She was willing to do anything to keep them together. However, Chris did not want to keep the marriage, and I believe he thought he had no other option. That's just my theory, but let's go ahead and continue on.
The best we can do is try to piece together some kind of understanding from the evidence that is available to us. And the evidence tells us this: the defendant coldly and deliberately ended 4 lives. Not in a fit of rage, not by way of accident, but in a calculated and sickening manner. Shanann was 34 years old. She had married the defendant in November of 2012.
Now, he says that Chris did it in a calculated way. I feel like I want to disagree, because to me, this wasn't calculated, this was scrambled. He did this all the morning before work, and I feel like he didn't think this through. I feel like he was just in the moment and trying to find something to answer his questions. What am I going to do with the kids? What am I going to do with the bodies? I'm going to work. Let me just dump them in here. And I feel like that was kind of how he was a little bit scrambled. And he tried to cover up what he did, but I feel like he just was too panicked that he couldn't. Now, I could be wrong, but I feel like if this was calculated, it would have been a little bit harder to realize that he was the culprit. By the way, I think this is the DA. Whoops. Okay, well that answers that. I'm a little bit stupid.
August 13th, she had been at a work conference in Phoenix, Arizona, and returned home in the early morning hours of August 13th. We know that she got home about 1:45 in the morning. The doorbell camera on their home shows her arriving back home from the airport. Shortly thereafter, at least according to the defendant, they had what he referred to as an emotional conversation about the state of their marriage and about what their lives would look like going forward. What was said during that emotional conversation, only he knows.
Yep.
What we do know is that shortly after that, the defendant strangled her to death with his own hands.
Now, he apparently strangled Shanann after the conversation that they had that night. This was early in the morning, like probably 3-4 a.m. And I am willing to bet that he strangled Shanann in her sleep. Now, the reason why I say this is because from that letter, from all of her messages, from all of her personality traits, I am willing to bet that she would never give up. I full-heartedly believe that she would have fought for the marriage. And I feel like Chris felt threatened by that, waited for her to fall asleep, and then strangled her. I don't believe Shanann was awake, because the kids probably would have heard screaming. They probably would have heard fighting, wrestling, all of that other stuff. Granted, they were little, but I feel like he couldn't have gotten the jump on her unless she was asleep. So I full-heartedly believe that Chris Watts strangled his wife when she was asleep.
We know that he slowly took her life the morning of August 13th. We know that this was not done in an uncontrolled, vengeful manner that he tried to describe to agents from CBI and the FBI. If that were the case, you would expect to see vicious, horrible bruising about her neck, shoulders, and face. You would expect to see the hyoid bone in her neck broken. You would expect to see some kind of defensive wounds on his body as she struggled and fought for her own life.
So that again just kind of like supports my theory of him murdering her in her sleep, because she would have fought back. He would have bruises on him. He would have had scratch marks on him. She would have done everything in her power to fight back and fight for her life. So I don't believe that Shanann was awake when he started to strangle her.
None of those are present. The only injuries that were on Shanann's body were one set of finger or bruising, what appeared to be fingernail or finger mark bruising to the right side of her neck. We know that our experts will tell us that it takes 2 to 4 minutes to strangle someone to death manually with their own hands. The horror that she felt as the man that she loved wrapped his hands around her throat and choked the life out of her must have been unimaginable. Even worse, what must Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3, must have experienced or thought is their father, the one man on this planet who was supposed to nurture and protect them, was snuffing out their lives.
So I think this is a good spot to wrap off this episode. If you are watching and enjoying these Psych Reacts videos, be sure to drop a like down below. Make sure, if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you know when another video goes live. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace!